Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. I hope your day and your week have been going very well so far. College football week 9 is officially upon us. We got a great slate of games this week. And as always, guys, I've got some really great picks to go ahead and share with you. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. With a new day and a new week of college football comes some new opportunities to go ahead and make some money. I've got some great picks, a good number of picks to share with you guys in this week's video. I do want to say we are changing the format of the show a little bit, and I'll kind of discuss that as we actually get into the actual picks. But first, before we dive in, I do want to do a quick little recap of how we did last week. One thing about us here at Guy Boston Sports is that we're very transparent, okay? When we win, we tell you, but also when we lose, we tell you. And I'll be honest, we did a lot of losing last week. 8-14 last week. Now, to be fair, we are still 69. I'll pause for the applause. 69-62 on the year. So we do still have a winning record. We're still having a great year overall. Just had a really bad week last week. We had too many picks, 22 picks, way too many picks. And, we'll kind of discuss the format change. The format change has something to do with the number of picks we've been giving out. And I've been listening to the feedback, listening to some of the criticism, positive criticism, and some negative. And we are adjusting the show a little bit, and I'll explain that in just a second. But yeah, 8-14 last week. We did hand out a few winners here and there, but overall 14 losses, just way too many losses handed out. We can definitely do better than that. I know we will do better than that starting this week. All right, guys, with all that said, let's go ahead and dive into our Week 9 college football picks. Like I've alluded to a couple times now already in the first minute and a half of this video, the format of the show is changing slightly. First and foremost, we're putting a cap on the number of picks I'm going to hand out per week. Now, to a lot of people, it's probably a good thing. For some people, you might be disappointed because it means less games being covered. I think it's just best for everybody. I've seen a lot of feedback about so many picks, and I agree. 22, way too many. Even 20 picks, way too many. So how we're going to do the show moving forward, and let me know down below in the comments how you feel about this, and watch the video and see how you like the new format. We're going to have a cap of 15 picks maximum per week. So like I said, we're still giving out plenty of picks in these videos, guys. 15 picks is still a lot. But it's not 18 or 20, 22. We were getting a little crazy with how many games we were covering here. It was too much. We weren't giving our best picks possible because we were just focused on getting a pick for every game. Now, I still backed all those picks. I still believed, and I still bet all those picks. But obviously, it's too many, right? So 15 pick maximum. We're going to break the show into 3 categories. So there's going to be 3 categories, 5 picks each category. And we'll get started and explain what each category kind of represents, starting with our first category here. So our first of 3 categories here is titled Third and Long. What this means is these are 5 picks where I still like them, I still love them, I'm still betting them, but I am admitting off the bat, these are probably my riskiest of my 15 picks. These are the ones that, in terms of a confidence scale, I'm still confident, but definitely a lower grade of confidence in comparison to the other picks in the video. So that's how we're kind of breaking it down. We have third and long, we have second and short, and first and goal. Those are the 3 categories. First and goal being my 5 favorite picks of the week. Second and short being the 5 picks I like a little bit more than this category, but a little bit less than first and goal. And again, we can kind of reiterate these things as we go forward in the show. All right, I've rambled enough. Let's get started. Our first of 15 picks in today's video. Our first pick in the third and long category here. We're targeting Northwestern at Nebraska. We have a 12 p.m. kickoff on Saturday, and we're going Northwestern here plus 8.5 on the spread, which I'm grabbing for minus 120 on ESPN Bet. Best odds available to me. Now, one big change, obviously, in the previous format, I was kind of going through the, starting on Friday, going through Saturday, 12 o'clock. I was going time by time. So the time, that's the one area where I'm sure some people are going to be a little disappointed. The timing is going to be all over the place. I'm going to have some games early on from the 8 p.m. slate, some from the Friday slate or in the first and goal category. It is what it is. I'm just giving you guys my bets based off of how much I love them and how confident I am in them. So anyways, Northwestern plus 8.5 here, minus 120 over on ESPN Bet. We got a pretty good Big Ten battle here. Nebraska obviously coming off of a really tough loss to Minnesota last week. They got blown out in that spot. They've had an okay season. I mean, the games they've lost minus the Minnesota game, they've been competitive. Like they lost to Michigan, it was a competitive game. They do have wins over Cincinnati, big win over Michigan State and Maryland. So it's been an okay season for Nebraska, but this is just not a spot I like for them. They have a 17% cover rate against the spread this year, so they have not been a good cover team at all. And then even if you just narrow it down to this line of minus 8.5, just a 43% hit rate on the year. So this is a Nebraska team that's not really covering all that well, and even in this particular line, it's not great. Northwestern, on the other hand, a much better cover team, 67% overall against the spread, and 71% at this line of plus 8.5. They are coming off of a pretty good run here. They beat Penn State, obviously, at Penn State, the game that got James Franklin fired. They followed it up with a shutout win over Purdue. They have wins over UCLA. They lost to Oregon by 20. They got blown up by Tulane early in the year. But this is a solid Northwestern team, a good, not great Northwestern team. But they can definitely go to battle here with Nebraska on their own. Now, it's obviously a very, very, very tough road environment here. But again, we're not picking Northwestern to win the game. They just have to keep this game within 8 points, which I think is very doable. Again, Nebraska has not blown out many teams this year. Offensively is the problem. Northwestern does not have a very good offense, but the one area they are pretty strong is their rushing offense. 39th in college football, averaging 190 rushing yards per game. Nebraska's weakness on defense is their run defense, tied for 86th in the nation, averaging 156.3 rushing yards per game. So there's a clear point of weakness that Northwestern can go ahead and attack Nebraska with here. Also, Northwestern, a decent offensive line, good enough at least against a pretty poor Nebraska pass rush. So pretty good numbers. Again, not a great offense, but they do have that clear advantage. Now, when you go ahead and flip it, okay, the strength of Northwestern is a defense. 11th best scoring defense in college football. And again, they played Penn State, they played Oregon, they played Tulane, they played some good teams. So this is a team that had some good battles here throughout the year. Top 20 pass defense is obviously key because Nebraska's strength offensively is their passing offense. And then they also have a decent enough run defense. So I think Nebraska, I'm not saying they can't win the game at home. That obviously makes a difference. But I do think, obviously, with the numbers we have for Northwestern here, I think they can put up a pretty decent fight. They don't have much of a pass rush defensively, which is a bit of a problem. They don't really force too many turnovers, but they have a strong pass defense and a decent run defense. I think they can at least slow Nebraska down. They can run the ball, control the clock, and keep this game close. Again, Nebraska have not been winning by that much. Look at their wins of 9 or more. Michigan State, okay, their defense is pretty damn bad. Akron, and then HCU. Like, those are the games where they're blowing out. Northwestern is definitely better than at least Akron, HCU. I think they're personally a little bit better than Michigan State. But again, this is a pretty well-tested Northwestern team. 8.5 points is a pretty big spread. I like them a lot in this spot. All right, guys, our second pick in the third and long category here, we have USF at Memphis, 12 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. I'm going with USF here, minus 3.5, minus 120 over on Novik. So pretty good value there. I am really unfortunately upset that we can't get under 3.5, getting to like 2.5 or even 3. But unfortunately, the odds just aren't worth it. So 3.5 is what we're working with here. I still like it a lot. USF obviously is a way more tested team. Now, these teams both have the same record of 6-1. But according to PFF, USF, in terms of strength of schedule so far this year, is 55th in the nation. Memphis 115th. So yes, Memphis is 6-1, and I'm not saying they haven't beaten anybody, worth mentioning. I mean, they have a win over Arkansas, I guess you can call that, but Arkansas is probably their biggest win of the year. And that's a bit of a problem, right? They're coming off a tough loss on the road to UAB, so that was their first loss of the season. They have been a really good cover team this year, but so hasn't USF. Both teams, 83% cover rate on the year. The difference is USF's only loss this year is to Miami, a top 10 team in the country. Memphis's loss was on the road to a non-ranked UAB. Now, USF did get blown out in that game, but USF also has wins over Florida, Boise State. And that's really where the good wins kind of stop for them. But that early season run really got USF in a good position. They're 4-2 against the spread in their last 6 games on the road. So it really is backing the more experienced team, the more battle-tested team. Against a Memphis team yes, they're home, but they're coming off a really rough loss against a team they probably should not have lost against. And this is kind of a coin flip game. If you look at both teams, I mean, Memphis' strength offensively is their rushing offense. USF's strength defensively, their run defense. They also force a lot of turnovers. They have a decent pass rush, okay? Pretty decent USF defense. Their weakness being their pass defense. Well, guess what? Memphis' passing offense is not that great. You go ahead and flip this over now. Where is USF's strength offensively? Rushing yards, 17th in the nation. Memphis, 24th run defense. So they're pretty good at stopping the run. However, USF does have a little advantage there in terms of passing yards per game versus Memphis's passing defense. So it's a tight game. It's a coin flip game, but ultimately I'll choose a team that's played some better competition, who's the Florida win. They've got the Boise State win. Those are more impressive than anything Memphis has done this year. Arkansas is not a good enough win for me to be like, yeah, great win for Memphis. So I'll back USF here in this spot. All right, guys, our third pick in today's video and our third pick in the third and long category here, we have Illinois at Washington, 3:30 p.m. kickoff on Saturday here. I'm going with Illinois plus 5.5 on the spread, which I'm grabbing for minus 128 over on FanDuel. Best odds available to me. Illinois is coming off a bye week following their tough loss to Ohio State, so they had a little bit of rest coming into this Washington game. Washington, meanwhile, immediately come back from getting dominated by Michigan on the road. They have to travel cross-country back home and now host number 23 ranked Illinois. So really tough spot for Washington. They haven't really had a break. I can't remember when their bye week, if they've even had a bye week, honestly. It's just been constant. They went from at Washington State, immediately played Ohio State, then played Maryland, then played Rutgers, then played Michigan. They've been on a really rough run. Now they got to come home and host Illinois here. Again, I'm not picking Illinois money line. I'm not picking them to win the game. But considering this is probably a tired and fatigued Washington team hosting a well-rested and hopefully healthier Illinois side, I think Illinois can keep this game relatively close. From a matchup perspective, they do have a clear advantage also. Illinois, passing-wise, 40th in passing yards per game in the nation. Washington's weakness defensively has been their pass defense, 90th in the nation, giving up almost 235 passing yards per game. So you have a clear advantage there. Washington also doesn't have that strong of a pass rush. So Illinois, who have clearly had some offensive line issues this year, it shouldn't have as bad as a time versus Washington as they've had versus some other teams with better pass rushes. On the flip side, though, obviously Illinois' defense not very good. Their run defense is okay. The pass defense has been a problem. Washington's strength is their passing offense. That's why I wouldn't recommend an Illinois money line necessarily on the road here. But I think 5.5 points. Feels like a field goal type of game with Luke Altmaier and Illinois' passing offense. They should be able to go ahead and hang around with Washington here. So plus 5.5 to me seems like a solid bet. And according to the insights provided by Outlier, Illinois are 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 games on the road. That includes against Duke, Northwestern, Rutgers, and Purdue going back to last year as well. So pretty good numbers overall. I think it's a good spot to go ahead and back Illinois. All right, guys, our fourth pick in our third and long category here. We have BYU at Iowa State. 3:30 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. And I know I've been very critical of Iowa State this year on this show, but I am backing Iowa State here minus 2.5 against BYU, grabbing it for minus 118, actually minus 117, over on Novig. This is honestly a situational spot here to back Iowa State. Iowa State coming off a bye week. Now they've had back-to-back losses here, losing at Cincinnati and at Colorado. They come home off a bye week. They're hopefully a little bit healthier. Some injury stuff has plagued them a bit this year. Coming out the bye, more rested, hopefully a little bit healthier. Hosting a BYU team that this is a very big letdown spot. They're coming off a massive win over Utah, bumped them up to number 11 ranked in the country, and I understand it. They have actually a couple big wins in a row: West Virginia, Arizona, Utah, Colorado. They've been on a really good run of late, but like I talked about with Washington in the last play, this is a BYU team that has not had much rest. They literally have just been going. They went from Stanford to Eastern Carolina. They had their bye week in between Stanford and Eastern Carolina, so the bye week was back in early September, mid-September. Since then, they've had 3 of their last 5 games have been on the road. This is their 4th road game in the last 6 games for BYU, so a lot of travel and some good teams. Utah, Arizona. I wouldn't say Colorado's a great team, but they're not an easy team necessarily. So this is a BYU team that's been on the road a lot. They played a lot of games consecutively. They're probably a little bit fatigued. They're obviously coming off a very emotional win in the Holy War last week. So I think this is a good spot to back Iowa State at home. Again, well-rested. Back-to-back loss, a little bit more desperate in this spot. So I do like Iowa State. I feel like it's a very big letdown spot here for BYU. The key to this game, honestly, is stopping BYU's rushing offense, which is easier said than done because Iowa State has not been great against the run this year. Again, I don't have a lot of numbers really to back this. This is more of a situational spot bet. It's the reason why it's in the third and long category and not the first and goal category. I like the play. I'm willing to put something on it, but I'm just letting you know it's definitely one of the riskier plays I have on my board because the numbers don't necessarily support Iowa State. It's more of, hey, considering the situation, considering the circumstances, I think Iowa State is not a bad bet here. All right, guys, in my 5th and final pick in the third and long category here, we have Baylor at Cincinnati, 4 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. I'm going with the Baylor Bears here, plus 6.5, which is a little juiced here, minus 148 over on FanDuel. Despite the juice, I still like to play for Baylor here. Baylor, now, in terms of the overall spread, it has not been that great. 17% cover rate this year, not very good. But at this particular line of plus 6.5, they have an 86% cover rate on the year. The only game they did not cover within this plus 6.5 point number was week 1 versus Auburn. They're also 4-2 against the spread in the last 6 games on the road. So although the overall spread numbers aren't great, actually on the road dating back to last season, they have been a decent cover team. And again, minus week 1 versus Auburn. This is a Baylor team that win or lose, they hang around here. Okay, they lost their last game out to TCU. They kept it by 6 points. They hung on and barely beat Kansas State. They lost to Arizona State by 3. They beat SMU by 3. Like, a lot of their games are very close, Whether they win or lose, they're very close games. So when you have a 6.5 point spread here, now the actual spread I believe is more like 4.5, 3.5. I added some points to it for sure. But when you have the type of a number for a Baylor team that's done in every game but one, Cincinnati, as great as they are, I do think Baylor can hang around. Now, defensively, Baylor's been a mess this year. 117th in the nation in scoring, 75th against the pass, 112th versus the rush in terms of yards per game. Don't have much of a pass rush. Their defense has been abysmal. And Cincinnati offensively is not great, although they are second in the nation in yards per play. Very strong offensive line. They should be able to score points. The reason why I think Baylor will hang around, though, is this right here. Baylor has the number one passing offense in college football. It's the reason why they have been a fun team to watch, and they've won some games this year. They are averaging almost 345 passing yards per game. Well, guess where Cincinnati defensively is the weakest? Their pass defense, 97th in the nation, giving up 240 passing yards per game. So you have a clear advantage there. That's the thing. Yes, Baylor's defense awful. Yes, Cincinnati should and probably will win this game. But because Baylor is so good at throwing the football, and you have the fact that the Bearcats, their weakness defensively is against the pass, Baylor should be able to hang in this game, score late. Maybe this is a backdoor cover. Maybe it's a late touchdown that gets us this cover. But the moral of the story being, this passing offense is so good, they're going to go ahead and cover this spread here. So again, if Cincinnati defensively was better against the pass, I would definitely lean more on the side of the Bearcats. But considering that they are pretty weak against the pass and Baylor being as strong as they are throwing the football, Baylor plus 6.5 seems like a good spot. They've been close in every game this year, -1. That was the Auburn game back in week 1. I think Baylor hangs around -148. That's probably the big reason why it's in the third and long category, is just for the value, the juice on it. It's not as surefire of a bet considering it's -148, but I still like it, and it's worthy of being on my play sheet. All right, guys, so 5 picks in. That's the end of the third and long category. We're now moving on to our next category. That next category being second and short. Again, this is the category where I like these picks a little bit more than the 5 I just gave you, but a little bit less than my 5 favorite bets, which we'll end the video with. So this is second and short. The second of 3 categories. We'll have 5 picks in this category again. By the way, guys, we're about to the 17-minute mark in today's video. So if you are still watching at this point, please comment 17 down below and let me know how you feel about the new format. Do you like it? Do you like the fact that we're narrowing the picks down, limiting them, kind of highlighting which ones are my favorite, which ones are my least favorite on my sheet? Let me know down below what you think of the new format, as well as commenting 17 to let me know you're still watching. All right, guys, our 6th pick overall and our first pick in our second and short category, we have Texas A&M at LSU, 7:30 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. I'm actually going to be at this game in Louisiana. We're going Texas A&M -2.5 in the spread, which I'm grabbing for -110 over on DraftKings. Now, I did a whole separate video on the channel already. It should be out around the time this video comes out. The Clash of the Titans video breaking down this game in depth. So to save time, I'm not going to go ahead and reiterate a lot of the stuff I mentioned in that video already. Go ahead and check that video out, A&M at LSU. I am recording this video early in the week. That's why some of the lines might change by the time you guys see this video on Friday, because I'm actually leaving tonight, Thursday, to head down to New Orleans. My first time in Death Valley, my first SEC football game in SEC country, so very excited for that. But A&M -2.5, the easiest way to explain this without having to go into too much more detail, like I said, you want my full thoughts on the game, go watch that video. It'll be on the channel. Brian Kelly. This LSU team is the same old. Like, we thought early in the year they beat Clemson, they beat Florida. We thought, oh man, LSU, they turned the tide. They're winning big games. Wrong. Mama's wrong again, okay? Ole Miss and Vanderbilt, they lost both. Now, granted, LSU did hang around and they were tight in those games. And I do think this game will be very tight. But ultimately, you have an undefeated A&M team in great form versus an LSU team this is it. Their season and possibly Brian Kelly's job is tied to this game. You could say back against the wall, LSU might be the better side because they're more desperate. I can't trust Brian Kelly in a spot like this. He's typically in his career, whether you look at Notre Dame or LSU, has failed in these spots. So I got to back the A&M Aggies here, -2.5 again. You want more insight, more analysis into this game? Go ahead and check out my Clash of the Titans video, also on the channel. All right, guys, my 7th pick of the video, my second pick in the second and short category. We have Houston at Arizona State, 8 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. I'm going with the Sun Devils here, -6.5 on the spread, which I'm grabbing for -125 over on BetMGM. And by the way, guys, don't worry if you miss any of these picks. They will all be put down below in the pinned comment to go ahead and follow along with. So I know it's a lot of picks, a lot of time talking. Don't worry, all the picks will be posted for you guys to go ahead and follow along with. Now, overall, Arizona State actually has been pretty good against the spread, 50% hit rate this year. However, at this particular line of -6.5, not as great, 29% on the year. Houston, meanwhile, 67% hit rate overall this year, 86% at +6.5. Arizona State, though, has only lost one game this year. That was to Utah in a game where they had their backup quarterback in because Sam Leavitt wasn't playing. You saw last week versus Texas Tech, a massive win for Arizona State. They get back-to-back home games as well, so no travel in between. The return of Sam Leavitt, they beat, at the time, one of the best teams in the country in terms of ranking. And I think Arizona State, as long as they have Sam Leavitt, they've been phenomenal. They have wins over Baylor, TCU, Texas Tech, Mississippi State, like some decent wins on their resume. Houston's been pretty good, but they have not faced the level of competition that Arizona State has or has been as successful against the same level of competition. They both played Texas Tech. Houston lost by 24 points to Texas Tech. Arizona State beat them by 4. I just don't think Houston offensively is good enough to go ahead and put points up against a solid Arizona State defense. They're not great defensively, but Houston is not great offensively. 92nd in passing yards per game, tied for 53rd in rushing yards per game. I just don't see Houston scoring enough here. Tied 62nd in the nation in scoring. On the flip side, Houston very strong defensively, but again, Arizona State at least is top 50 in the nation in rushing yards per game. So at least they have a running game that is pretty solid. Yes, Houston has a very good run defense, but again, on the flip side, Houston doesn't really have anywhere to go, and Arizona State's run defense is definitely better and more proven than Houston. So it's going to be a tight game here, but I do think Arizona State by 7 with the home field advantage, momentum coming off that Texas Tech win, and Sam Leavitt obviously playing. I just have a hard time believing Houston, as good as they have been this year, is going to hang around in this spot. The one key weakness I'm afraid of, though, I will admit, is Arizona State's offensive line against Houston's pass rush. That's one area where we could be in danger, but overall, I still like the spot a lot here for Arizona State. All right, guys, our 8th pick overall and our 3rd pick in the second and short category. Here we have Missouri at Vanderbilt, ranked on ranked matchup. Unfortunately, because I'm running behind here on schedule and I am leaving tonight for New Orleans, this was supposed to be the third Clash of the Titans video this week. Unfortunately, I can't get the video done in time. I apologize. We did get 2 of them done, though, for the A&M LSU game and the Ole Miss Oklahoma game, which that pick will be coming later on in this video as well. So I apologize for that. We will kind of talk about this game more in detail here. I am rocking with Vanderbilt here, minus 2.5 on the spread, which is minus 115 over on FanDuel. This game really is a coin flip. These are 2 really good SEC teams, proven with some big wins, also some tight losses, though. Vanderbilt, first and foremost, 5-1 against the spread in the last 6 games versus top 25 scoring defense. It's obviously a good insight there. They have a 67% cover rate against the spread this year, which is the same as Missouri. Both these teams, a lot of great numbers. You look at the matchup percentages here. I mean, it's really tough to find an advantage. In Missouri, really good defense. Vanderbilt, very strong offense. You go ahead and flip it. Vanderbilt, strong defense. Missouri, strong offense. Like, they both are strong on both sides of the football. And where they have weaknesses, the other team is weak. For example, Vanderbilt, their pass defense, not great, 71st in the nation, right? But Missouri's passing offense is 60 in the nation. They have a little advantage there, but they're not a great passing team. Their strength has been their rushing offense, which Vanderbilt is very strong against the run. Vanderbilt also has a very strong pass rush, which obviously is the key for me in this game, is the fact that Missouri's offensive line hasn't been great. Vanderbilt, very potent pass rush, so I think they can get to the quarterback and cause some pressure. On the flip side, same thing. Vanderbilt, very strong rushing offense. Missouri, very strong rushing defense. It's going to be a coin flip game, but you have the home field advantage. Missouri also having a very rough road here. They've now played, a bunch of games in a row, 2 games in a row. They had a bye week between the UMass game, but they played Alabama and Auburn in back-to-back weeks. So obviously really tough games back-to-back. They did win last week versus Auburn. Now, that's not to say that Vandy hasn't had a tough road, but they lost to Bama, and then they had a bye week and then came home and beat LSU. So they have back-to-back home games, no travel for them. Missouri obviously traveling for this game. They were at Auburn. Now they have to go on the road against Vanderbilt here. That home field advantage, and obviously the fact that Vanderbilt has had back-to-back home games, I think is ultimately the difference maker. Because again, this is a coin flip game for me. It really just comes down to those slight little advantages and those slight differences. And that home field advantage for Vanderbilt, to me, and the momentum they have, it is key. That LSU game was huge last week. Big win for Vanderbilt. I think they go ahead and win at home versus a Missouri team that is good and proven, but I do like Vandy here in this spot. All right, guys, our 9th pick in today's video and our 4th pick in the second and short category here. We have Oregon minus 30.5 in the Wisconsin-Oregon game, 7 p.m. kickoff, on Saturday. And yeah, guys, look, I mean, it's minus 130, actually, yeah, minus 132 over on DraftKings. It's more just this Wisconsin team has been terrible. This Wisconsin team has been shut out in back-to-back games. They have not scored a point since October 4th. We're on October 23rd at the time of recording. This game will happen on October 25th. Okay? 3 weeks between the last time Wisconsin scored a point in a football game. And there isn't a bye week in between there, right? They went right from, Michigan. There's no bye week to separate that. That's literally just, since the Michigan game, they have not scored. That's not good. And if you want to go even further, since the Bama game, so that's the cutoff, right? From September 20th on, so the last month, they have scored 20 points across 4 games. It's an average of 5 points per game. 10 versus Maryland, 10 versus Michigan, 0-0. This Wisconsin team cannot put up points. They have one of the worst offenses in college football right now. It's abysmal. They currently rank offensively 134th in the nation in scoring. And if you take away the 42-point game there versus MTU early in the year, they have not broken 20 points again this year. So only once this season have they broken over 20 points, over 17 points for that matter. This is a really good Oregon defense. Regardless if they did have a good offense, this is a very good Oregon defense. Considering how good Oregon is, Wisconsin's not going to score. Their team total under in line is set at 6.5 points. Like, people do not think Wisconsin's scoring much. Oregon doesn't really have to try, honestly, in this game. I mean, and then defensively, they're not terrible. They actually have a good run defense. But Oregon, just because of how low Wisconsin is, Oregon only needs to score about 35 points. They should cash this line. You know, they don't need to score 50 or 40. Like, a lot of teams, 30.5 is tough because you need to score 50-plus points. In this case, 35 to 40 points, Oregon cashes this line. So this Wisconsin team is garbage. Defensively, they're okay, but even there, they're not great. Offensively, they're one of the worst offenses in college football. You give me one of the top 10 best teams in the country at home against this Wisconsin team, the only thing I could think of is it could be like a look-ahead spot where Oregon's not really caring too much about this game. They just go ahead and get their win, bench their guys. They don't worry about blowing the team out, and they look to the future schedule, but I think Oregon should crush this team. All right, guys, our 10th pick overall and our 5th and final pick in the second and short category, we have Alabama out at South Carolina. 3:30 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. We have South Carolina team total under 18.5 points. I'm grabbing that for minus 150 over on FanDuel or DraftKings. A little juice on this line for sure. The odds are a little higher than I'd like them to be. That being said, I do really love South Carolina under in this spot. Now, you have seen some overs this year. They're averaging 20.14 points per game this year, but look at their overs. Virginia Tech, Missouri, which actually is their best performance in terms of the offense, right? Kentucky, South Carolina State. Those are the games they scored over 19 points. But Vanderbilt, LSU, Oklahoma, these ranked SEC teams you see in South Carolina struggle against. The only one they've had some measure of success, 20 points versus Missouri. They barely cashed the line here. So really good numbers. Alabama, obviously one of the better defenses in college football. Look at the last 4 opponents versus Bama here. Okay, Tennessee, 20 points under. Vanderbilt, 14 points under. Georgia, 21 points under. So, yes, all these teams scored over, 18.5 points, but they all hit their unders. Alabama's been holding these better offenses, much better offenses than South Carolina, under, minus Missouri, who cashed the over by 1 point. Moral of the story, South Carolina, these big spots have come up short. Alabama's holding teams to lower numbers, tied for 21st in the nation in terms of points per game. And again, I just don't know where South Carolina gets points here. They are outside the top 100 in both passing and rushing yards per game. This has been a disappointing South Carolina team. They have Lenore Sellers, who I really like a lot. I think he's going to be a good NFL quarterback one day. But this South Carolina team is garbage. I just don't think they're going to score many points. And on the flip side, Alabama's going to destroy them because their defense, although it's way better than their offense, Alabama, Ty Simpson should throw all over this team. The only reason I didn't take Alabama spread here is because I do fear South Carolina's defense could keep the game a little closer than expected, but I just don't see South Carolina scoring many points in this spot. So give me the team total under 18.5. All right, guys, so that's it for our second and short category. We have one more category left, 5 more picks to go in today's video here, and our third and final category is first and goal. These are my 5 favorite bets of the Week 9 college football slate. I like all the picks. Again, just because they're in different categories doesn't mean I don't like or I don't support any picks I've given out in the video. All 10 picks I've given so far, I love them. But these 5 in particular, I love just a little bit more. All right, guys, our 11th pick in today's video and our first pick in the first and goal category. We've got Syracuse at Georgia Tech, 12 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. I'm going with the Yellow Jackets here, minus 16.5, which I'm grabbing for minus 114 over on Novik, best odds available to me. Georgia Tech obviously coming off their big road win over Duke last week. A lot of people kind of doubted them in that spot. I was not one of them. And this is really just the story of 2 teams in different directions. Georgia Tech in really good form, top 10 team in the country. Syracuse, since they lost Steve Angeli, it's been a nightmare. 35-point loss to Duke. 13-point loss to SMU, 17-point loss to Pitt. Their offense, which was once really good and a really great passing attack, has plummeted now. They've scored less than 20 points in each of the 3 games without Angeli, and I just don't see that getting any better here versus Georgia Tech on the road at Georgia Tech. Offensively, Syracuse, again, the numbers, you take them with a grain of salt. They don't have a great rushing attack. The passing numbers are only good because of the first half of the year with Steve Angeli. of late, it hasn't been nearly as good. This is not a good offense without him, and their defense wasn't good to begin with this year. So a bad defense, 107th in scoring. This is a Georgia Tech offense that has clear advantages in the passing game and the running game, yards per play, everything. Great offensive line. There just isn't an area where I think Syracuse has any sort of advantage here. Georgia Tech defensively is not great, but Syracuse offensively does not have an offense right now that can take advantage of that. So I think Georgia Tech rolls here. 16.5 points, minus 126. They're going to crush Syracuse in this spot. Our 12th pick in today's video and our second pick in the first and goal category comes from Virginia at North Carolina, 12 p.m. kickoff. I'm going with Virginia here, minus 9.5 on the road at Chapel Hill, minus 127 over on Novig. Now, look, I bet against North Carolina last week, and they did cover versus Cal, so they did play pretty well. Honestly, that was their best game of the season to me. They're on the road at Cal, lost by 3, but at least they kept it competitive. They were 9.5-point underdogs in that game. Had opportunities to win it, so they did look better off the bye. I still don't think this is a good North Carolina team. They have guys dropping out. You still have all the drama. Yes, they played better, but this Virginia team is definitely on another level compared to Cal. Like, Cal is not a bad team necessarily, but Virginia's top 25 ranked. This is a Virginia squad that's more tested. They have wins over Louisville, Florida State. They lost to NC State early in the year, but they have some more impressive wins. They just narrowly beat Washington State last week. More proven, better wins. UNC only has their only 2 wins this year are Charlotte and Richmond. Not exactly the cream of the crop in terms of talent. So I just think Virginia, even though they're on the road here, to win by 10 against this North Carolina squad, I don't see why that should be a problem here. They have a really potent offense. Specifically, their passing offense is really, really good. Very strong rushing offense, good offensive line. UNC defensively isn't great, and on the flip side, UNC offensively is a disaster. That's the one area where you could possibly attack Virginia, is because their defense is the weaker side of the ball for them. But UNC 122nd in passing yards per game, 124th in rushing yards per game. They turn the ball over a lot. There's not much to like here, so I think Virginia minus 9.5 is a very strong bet here. All right, guys, our 13th pick in today's video, and our third pick in the first and goal category, we have Stanford at Miami, 7 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. Easy one for me. Miami minus 29.5, which I'm grabbing for minus 105 over on ESPN Bet. The Hurricanes lost. Very bad game last week to Louisville. Carson Beck, awful. That being said, one bad game doesn't erase all the goodwill this team had coming into that Louisville spot. This is still one of the best teams in the nation, still a top 10 team. And regardless how you feel coming off that Louisville loss, Stanford is one of the worst teams in college football. Now, they have covered plus 29.5. Good for them in every game this year, but they've been an underdog of like 10 or more points in every game except for 2. This is not a very good team. They have a 29% cover rate against the spread. They've been blown out by a bunch of teams. Now, granted, I did bet against this team last week when they played Florida State. However, they're now traveling cross country. They were home at Stanford, and now they're going to go to Miami cross country to play Miami. So you have the travel component there. Not great for Stanford. And then obviously, like, you look at the games. I mean, they've been blown up by 24 to SMU, 10 to Boston College, 24 to BYU. Like, those teams are not at Miami. Like, 28 points to Virginia, very close to that line there, right? Miami should be able to go ahead and crush them. Stanford 2-6 against the spread in their last 8 games. Defensively, they're a mess, 93rd in the nation. Now, they do have a good rushing defense, but their pass defense is literally abysmal. And guess what? The strength of Miami, their passing game there with Carson Beck. So really bad defense against a pretty strong Miami offense. On the flip side, their offense is not very good, and this is a very weak offensive line. Miami's pass rush should wreak havoc on this team. It's just going to be a rough day for Stanford. I think Miami's going to take out some frustration, get back on track with a huge win at home here over Stanford. So I love Miami here, minus 29.5. Again, for minus 105 on ESPN Bet, very strong value. All right, guys, our 14th pick overall and our 4th pick in the first and goal category here. We have Minnesota at Iowa, 3:30 p.m. kickoff on Saturday, and I'm going with the under here, 40.5, which I'm grabbing for minus 132 over on FanDuel. Look, Iowa, obviously, they've actually been covering the over at a pretty decent rate this year. Both teams have actually been pretty big over teams, but that's because their lines are usually very, very low. The under has hit in 4 of Minnesota's last 6 games on the road. These are just 2 really good defenses with offenses that have question marks, right? Minnesota offensively, now they are coming off a very big win over Nebraska last week. They are 79th in the nation scoring. They are outside the top 80 in both passing and rushing yards per game, outside the top 80 in yards per play. Outside the top 80 in first downs. I mean, not efficient in the red zone, not efficient on third down. There's nothing very good here. And you take that bad offense, those bad offensive numbers, and put them against one of the best defenses in college football in Iowa. At Iowa, Minnesota's going to struggle to score. But on the flip side, Minnesota, one of the top 20 best run defenses in college football in terms of rushing yards per game, against an Iowa offense that solely relies on the run to win, to score points, because their passing offense abysmal. So, yeah, I don't see Iowa scoring many points. I definitely don't see Minnesota scoring many points here. I know it's a lower line for college football, but this under, to me, is as close to a lock as you could possibly get. These two teams did meet last year, and it was a high-scoring affair, 31-14 last year. But to be fair, even there, 45 points, it just barely went over, and I think Iowa's offense is going to struggle in this spot. Minnesota defensively very good this year, so I like the under a lot here. All right, guys, in our 15th and final pick, and our 5th and final pick, obviously, in the first and goal category, we have Ole Miss at Oklahoma, 12 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. Give me the Rebels plus 6.5 on the spread. Again, I do have a Clash of the Titans video coming out for this game, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. We're going to wrap up the video here. Minus 120, over on Novig. Best odds available to me. I think John Mateer post-injury, I just don't think he's playing at the same high level. I think Ole Miss coming off of that Georgia loss. Now, obviously, tough situation to go from the Georgia loss on the road, immediately go on the road versus Oklahoma here and travel there. Obviously, very good situational spot for Oklahoma, but I do think Ole Miss is still a very good team. They haven't been very good on the road, as you can see by the insight provided by Outlier. But I think that their passing offense, you go to the flip side, their passing offense is good enough to keep them in this game. I know Oklahoma, very good defensively against the pass, but I do think Ole Miss, with their offense, and their defense is not bad. Like, they do have a decent enough defense. Their strength being their pass defense, which is huge because obviously Oklahoma, their strength offensively being their passing offense. I just think that John Mateer in this Oklahoma offense, since he's gotten hurt the last couple of games, have not looked as strong. And obviously, you're going against an Ole Miss defense that is solid and a very strong Ole Miss offense. So I think this is going to be a close game. This to me feels like a field goal game or like a 4-point game, 5-point game, something along those lines. So Ole Miss plus 6.5 to me is a very, very strong spot. All right, guys, that is it for me today. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. One more time, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. Let me know again down below what you think of the new format. I know I was going a little bit faster in general because I am leaving for New Orleans in a few hours, and so I'm just kind of get the video, recorded and out to you guys. So, but under 40 minutes, do you guys like the quicker videos, the faster videos, or do you prefer an hour-long video? Let me know down below in the comments. We'll be back next week with some more college football picks, but until then, guys, hope you're all winners. Enjoy your week. Let's go ahead and make some money.